Revenge of the Bridesmaids. Last summer, I was at a cousin's wedding. His bride and her family had been close with ours since before I was born, and the couple had known each other since they were toddlers, so it was a particularly exciting event for both sides of the family. However, after the ceremony was over and the party had only just started, one of the bridesmaids decided to announce her own engagement. The attention was immediately taken away from the newlyweds and brought to the bridesmaid, who I'll call Sarah, and her equally smug fiancé. My cousin's wife, I'll call her Emma, didn't make a scene or utter a single negative word about Sarah. She looked like she was on the verge of tears, but she kept grinning and acted very happy for the other couple. This was unusual as Emma is typically quite confrontational and speaks her mind no matter the consequences. Sarah later picked Emma to be the maid of honor at her own wedding, which took place last weekend. I wasn't there for it, but my cousin sent me some of the best bits on Snapchat and explained the whole situation. This is where the fun begins. Emma's two much younger sisters were the flower girls at Sarah's wedding. At the very last moment, Emma switched out the white petals in their baskets to the blue ones she had secretly brought with her. She told her sisters not to say anything about it or let the bride see them until it was time to scatter them down the aisle. Sarah looked very confused upon seeing the blue petals, which didn't coordinate whatsoever with her theme, but of course she didn't say anything about it in the moment. Most of Sarah's other bridesmaids were also Emma's friends, had attended Emma's wedding, and were in on Emma's scheme. At the reception, Emma's sisters and the other bridesmaids were tight-lipped when Sarah began demanding to know why there were blue petals. The wedding planner ended up getting a lot of abuse for not checking the flower girls' baskets before they walked down the aisle. Finally, it was time for the speeches. The speeches took place in front of a massive screen displaying a loop of photos with Sarah and her husband, which had been compiled by Emma. Emma took the remote that controlled the presentation screen, and at first she showed some pre-approved humorous photos of Sarah with Emma and her other friends to facilitate a couple light-hearted jokes. Then at the very end, Emma said to Sarah that she must be wondering why there were blue petals instead of the white ones she originally planned. That was when Emma displayed the last slide from her presentation. Emma announced in front of everyone that she was 5 months pregnant and that she just discovered the baby was a boy, hence the blue petals. The last slide? Her ultrasound picture. There were shocked yells and gasps. Sarah had a fit, but those involved in the scheme cheered so loudly that I sincerely regret watching the Snapchat recordings with headphones. Apparently, Sarah had been very nasty to her bridesmaids before, driving several of them away and forcing the others to pay ridiculous amounts of money for dresses. Emma and my cousin were eventually thrown out of the party, but they were all smiles. Sarah's fuming mother went to confront her outside, and Emma retorted with, "Gentle, gentle, I'm pregnant." I reckon Sarah doesn't speak to the majority of those bridesmaids anymore. Oh my god. First of all, I'd like to say sorry to that wedding planner who took the hit for everything. She was innocent and she deserves an apology. This story started years ago, as in the day I was born. The cast? Me, duh. BS, big sister or butch sister. M, mom. See, BS was the baby of the family before I was born. I came along just weeks before she turned 9 years old, and almost every day since then it has been a competition between us. Some examples. When I was in 7th grade science, I aced science class. On a major test, I was able to name all the major muscles in the body. At the time, BS was a nursing student. M asked me not to flaunt my success because my sister was sad over not doing well. Almost every shirt, pair of jeans, etc. I bought with my own money ended up on her side of the closet because she liked it. M clearly favors BS, although she will deny it. Step into the time machine to 20 years ago when my husband and I got married. M wanted every detail of my wedding to be just like BS's. The invitation had to look like hers, the color of the bridal party had to look the same, the first dance had to be the same song. After decades of living in BS's shadow, I finally put my foot down and threatened to elope rather than have a church wedding. M is very religious, so that was my trump card. M caved and I was able to get what I wanted. Finally. BS was the matron of honor, not by my choice, but because M didn't want my BFF from high school, someone I had been almost a real sister to for over a decade, to take place of a blood sibling. During the ceremony, BS did the first reading. This was about 10 minutes after I had walked down the aisle and I was sitting at the altar with my hubby. My jaw dropped when BS announced before the Bible verse, "This is one of the best days of my life and I'm so proud to see my baby sister finally get married." I was 25, but this morning I found out I was pregnant. There was a scattering of low but polite applause on my hubby's side, and M almost ran to the podium to embrace BS. Even on my side of the church, with my other siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends, etc., was quiet. Dad was happy but looked angry. Funny story, on the video of the wedding, which we watched later, you could clearly hear me say to hubby, "Are you effing kidding me?" The rest of the ceremony, BS cradled her flat tummy, and when communion time rolled around, the bride, me, got the first host and sip of wine. Thanks to my college and my Irish side of the family, I drank the gauntlet in 3 sips. Time ticked on, and BS never started to show. When M asked her about it, M said that she must have misread the test because she got her period 2 days after my wedding. Keep in mind that BS is a nurse and it would have been her 3rd pregnancy. She brushed it off and shrugged her shoulders when a family member said it wasn't time to make the announcement. Her husband moved out of the house because of the drama along with her 2 toddlers. The divorce soon followed. Last year, BS got remarried. This was her 3rd marriage, and even though Dad had passed away years earlier, BS wanted the entire dramatic walk down the aisle. She wanted me to be the matron of honor. She was very specific about the details of how I would look. I refused to have my mid-back length hair cut into a bob. I hit the gym for hours, almost every day, and was able to fit into the backless dress in a size I hadn't been since high school. It took months, but after 20 years and 4 kids of my own, I did it. It was an uphill battle. At the last fitting of my dress, she took a close look at my skin and demanded that I take care of my dry skin so I would look perfect. The day of the ceremony came along, and I was the only member of the bridal party to walk down. Our other sister was in the first 2 and wanted to sit out number 3. My hair was in a beautiful updo showing off my back from the base of my skull to just above my butt. It was a chilly day, so I kept my coat on until right before I walked. Number 3 side of the church was mostly silent, and there were a few chuckles on BS/our side, but Mom let out a gasp when she saw my new tattoos, which completely covered my back, every inch that the dress didn't cover, and my new tatted sleeves. She was furious and shot me angry looks throughout the ceremony. The tattoos, all henna, washed off within a few days. Revenge is a dish best served cold and with a few cups of wine.